Again, thank you for joining us. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. David Dees. Dr. Dees is an associate professor of cultural foundations and the director for the Center for Teaching and Learning here at Kent State. After earning a doctorate in cultural foundations of education, he has spent the last 15 years specifically focused on the aesthetic dimensions of teaching and learning, how the human brain works, and the impact of rural Appalachian culture on learning and higher education. Most recently, Dr. Dees has focused his energy on helping faculty colleagues design and implement scholarship of teaching and learning projects, which has led to several grants, presentations, and publications. Additionally, he is the co-founder of the Rural Scholars Program at Kent State Columbiana County campuses, which is a college access program for Appalachian at-risk youth. Dr. Dees is proud to have been recognized for his teaching through 2 student-nominated teaching awards, Outstanding Teaching Award and the Kent State University Teacher of the Year, and at Gannon University. So this is always a highlight of GSO. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. David Dees. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Good morning. Come on. Good morning. Thank you. She took out the part that I'm a self-proclaimed hillbilly from Kentucky. So she's trying to be respectful there, but I am a redneck hillbilly, and I'm proud of it. I was thinking driving up here today, it was 24 years ago today that I was sitting where you are, about ready to start my doctoral program at Kent State University, thinking to myself, at some moment they're going to figure out I have no idea what I'm doing. So that feeling you have never goes away. I've lived that my whole career now, that they're going to figure out sooner or later I'm an idiot. But you get used to it and you kind of bury it deep inside. And the other thing I thought about, and this is where whenever I do this talk, I always like to start with this. Your orientation to teaching is already better than mine, because at the University of Kentucky, this is literally, I wish I was making this up. I'm not making this up. Literally, I graduated on a Saturday afternoon, okay? I skipped my undergrad graduation because I was working at a rock and roll radio station at the time and had a shift on the air. And I thought, I'm not going, right? So I'm working at the radio station. I come home. I had been accepted into the graduate program at UK, and we were starting on Monday. Graduated Saturday, start on Monday. I had a GA ship in the theater department to build sets. That's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to build sets, no problem. This will be fun, right? I get home Saturday afternoon, and my roommate says, the chair of the theater department needs to talk to you immediately. And again, that thought in my head was, they found out I don't know anything. I'm an idiot, right? And I called her, and she said, you need to come to my apartment tomorrow, first thing. So Sunday morning, I drive out to her apartment. I'm like, okay, great. I've lost my GA ship. What am I going to do in my life? Blah, blah, blah. I walk in, and she says to me, hey, one of the TAs decided not to come. So tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., you're going to be teaching art of the theater to 250 undergrads. Here's the textbook. Here's the syllabus. Good luck. So you're already in a better position than I was, so you got a little more orientation going on. But this is the greatest time of your life, and enjoy it, have a good ride. But what I'm going to talk about today, is, see if I can do this, yes. Inviting your students' brains to class. That's the title of my talk. Every year I want to change the title, and they won't let me. They're like, no, you got to do the same one again. So we're going to have fun, right? We're going to get some ideas. We're going to have a good time. Our goal here today is just relax and have some fun. So here's the first thing. I want to give you the background of it. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today, what I'm doing today is I'm kind of taking stuff from cognitive learning theory, what we know about the brain, what we know researching neuroscience, and I'm going to kind of slam it all together to give you some strategies to think about as you stand in front of your class next week and as you try to engage students in learning, all right? So this is kind of just to give you some ideas, this is from James Zoll's work. A lot of this is from Zoll's work. But I want to say right now, if anybody ever says to you, there's a quick, easy trick, they're lying. They're making it up. Literally, they're making it up. Because there's no easy, quick trick to learning how to teach. And there's no quick trick that will automatically make sure that all students learn. So get over that right away, and be sure as you listen to me today that you kind of keep that critical eye on this, that this is more things that we can think about and appreciate as we get in front, as we engage our students in learning. Not necessarily ultimate truths yet, but we're working on that. So let's get into it right away. Now, there should be volume here. Hold on. Wait a minute. Why is the volume not playing? There it is. A little more. Okay. Don't panic yet. That is what you think it is. That is a baby deer that's falling into the lion's den at the National Zoo. Okay? Don't panic yet. I probably wouldn't show this video if it ends bad. Maybe. Want to take a bet? All right, here we go. Now watch this. Go, go, Bambi, go, go! Look at that. Pretty interesting, right? Think about this. How many of you have a cat at home? Raise your hand. When you go home this afternoon, grab that cat, fill the tub full of water, and throw it in and see what happens. See what happens. And then tweet it and tell me what happened. Look, cats don't like water, right? Cats don't like water. And here's the cool thing. Here's where I show this. I want you to think about how Bambi problem solved in a moment. And the one thing I want you to remember as I go through this talk today, everything I'm talking about, our brain biologically is designed and wired like Bambi's. Is anyone in here not a mammal? Everybody's mammals? Yes? Congratulations, you're a mammal. You win. No, but here's the point. That we used to be Bambi running in the desert from that same, not that same lion, but a similar lion for our lives, okay? So we're wired in a lot of similar ways. And what Zol's going to talk about, what I'm going to talk about today, is how that biological wiring is coming into your students today. Next week, your students are going to come in and they're going to be like Bambi. They're going to have those doe in their eyes look, and you're going to have to try to figure out how to create an environment where they can learn. Now, most importantly, though, I want you to think about this. These are 3 key principles for all of us. Our brains are designed to keep us alive. That's it. It's got one fundamental function. That's to keep us alive. Learning is not necessarily part of it. Learning that will keep us alive is important. But learning for learning's sake, we're not necessarily even wired for that. We're socialized for that, but we're not necessarily wired for that. What we're wired for is this: sense, connect, and act. Sense, connect, you sense your environment, you figure out what's going on, you connect it to things you already know, and then you act. That's it. That's what we do in every situation. We walk in going, okay, round tables today, not square, not rows. So I need to know, I got to talk to people this morning, right? Your brain was going, crap. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to meet anybody new. Hopefully somebody walks in and looks comfortable, right? I don't want to talk to anybody weird. A bunch of weird graduate students, probably some science going to sit next to me, right? You think about all the things that's going through your head. So you sit down and you just wait. And you're looking and you're connecting and somebody walks in, you go, ooh, that person looks like somebody really weird, look away, right? Or that person looks like somebody I might like because they remind me of Joe Blow at my other university. I'm going to make eye contact and smile and maybe kick the chair open and say, sit down, you look normal, right? So that's what we're doing. We're sensing, we're connecting, and acting all the time in every situation. So you got to fundamentally understand that as we get into these principles of the brain. Now, here's the next thing I want to show you, is what Zol did in his book, and I love this. This is where we slam together kind of cognitive learning theory with neuroscience. This is your brain, right? And on the outside here is Kolb's learning cycle. Okay, so if anybody's in learning theory, you will know Kolb's learning cycle. Now, Kolb's learning cycle actually should be rotated. Concrete experience should be here. So really, if you looked at Kolb's learning cycle in a book, you'd see concrete experience here, reflective observation here, abstract hypothesis here, active testing there. What Zoll did is he turned it, and here's why he turned it. He said, hey, when you look at the brain, it's really kind of doing what this psychologist had said years ago and what John Dewey at the turn of the 20th century suggested. John Dewey had nothing to do with brain theory, but even he suggested that this is kind of how we learn. So what Zoll said was, wait a minute, when I know about the brain, Zoll is a neuroscientist, he said, what I know about the brain, it matches this model if we turn the model, if we just turn it. So here's what happens. You're having an experience right now, a concrete experience. Information is coming into this back sensory quartile of your brain, and I like to think about it, really what it's doing is exploding. It's going to different parts of your brain. Sounds going one way, how you feel is going another way, what you're seeing is going another way. And so what happens is it gets separated in all these different sections of the brain, but it enters right here in a concrete experience. This temporal integrative cortex is going to be important. That's where your hippocampus is. And I'm going to talk a lot about that today. That's where when we think about something, when we have a memory, that cortex takes all these pieces of learning that are all over here, and it puts them together in kind of a picture. And it all gathers together right there. Okay? So that's reflective observation. We're thinking, how have I seen this before? What does this remind me of? Make sense? All right. Then what happens is we start hypothesizing, given what I'm seeing in this situation, given when I've been like this before, how should I act? What should I do? That's the frontal cortex, and that's where decision making happens. And then the last part is right here, the active testing. So what Zoll did is he said, hey, when you look at the biology of the brain, it does exactly what cognitive theorists have been saying for a long time. So what can we learn from that? How can we piece that together? Now, there's a couple caveats you need to understand, which I always like to have fun with. For example, this frontal cortex, this kind of abstract hypothesis, this kind of thinking and making decisions, doesn't really fully develop in your life till you're like 25, 26, somewhere in there, right? So in other words, 18-year-old kids are going to make really stupid decisions. They are. They're not real bright. And part of it is it's not their fault, right? Because that frontal cortex, that place right here, is not fully developed yet. So when they start hypothesizing how I should act, they don't have a lot of good knowledge to pull from, and they'll make stupid mistakes. Now, I was teaching this once in my undergrad class in Ed Psych, and I had a student raise her hand. And I said, yes, Cindy, what's up? She said, hey, Dr. Dees. She said, so what you're telling me is, right now, I'm 19 years old, that frontal cortex is not developed, right? I said, absolutely. And she said, Dr. Dees, so you're also saying, though, that this is part of normal development, right? She goes, it would be like a kid pooping their pants. They can't help it yet, right? It's not their fault. And I said, well, yeah, kind of, you're right. It is kind of like that. It's really kind of not your fault. She said, that's good to know. She said, could you do me a favor? Could you call my mom? And could you explain to her that all this trouble I'm getting into is not my fault? And I said, no, I'm not doing it. You're getting me involved in your parental conflicts. That's your issue. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Given this model, I'm going to show you some things to think about. Some tips and suggestions. Can everybody read that? The first guy says, it's windy today. No, it's Thursday. So am I. Let's have a beer. Here's the deal. Remember this. Prior knowledge. Prior knowledge is fact. Prior knowledge is persistent. And prior knowledge is the beginning of new knowledge. Prior knowledge to your students is fact, even if it's wrong. It's fact. Okay? It's going to be hard to change. It's going to take radical things to change it. We'll talk about what you need to do to change it. It's persistent. It's going to last. You're going to say, no, that's not how the world works. And they're going to say, yeah, it is. Or even worse, they'll say, okay, for this test, I'll just answer it the way you want to, but it's not really what I think. Okay? And it's also the beginning of new knowledge. The first tip I give all new teachers, you want to know how to teach your students, the first thing you do is figure out what they already know about it. That's a tip. If you know what they already know about it, you know where their misconceptions are, you know what you're starting with, and you're going to have a point to jump from, okay? And I'm going to give you tips on how to break it when their misconceptions are wrong, because that's the critical part. You got to help them change their thinking. There's tip one. Here's another suggestion. These are all designed to create emotion, right? When you see this, you should have some sort of emotional response. I found this the other day, and I just thought this is too cute. This should create some sort of... That guy's fun. You know, you can't watch a little kid dance and not have some sort of response. Okay? Wait, he's got a big move here. Here it is. Sorry. I find that funny. Nobody else in the room. Note to self, take that video out next year. All right, emotional connection. The human brain is an emotional thing. And this is something we try to run away from, and this is something I want you to embrace. You are always, always, always having an emotional response to every situation. The emotional response might just be boredom, but you are having a response all the time. And here's how we know this. For example, remember that model I showed you? Let me zoom in a little bit. Think about it this way. This temporal cortex, that's where the hippocampus is. That's where the emotion center is. That's the place that takes all these other bits of pieces of information and puts it together. What we're finding now is that emotion is critical to memory recall. What happens is, literally, when people remember things, they take little pieces of the event and they put it together, and they put it together in the context of how they felt. Does that make sense? That's why you remember certain songs in a certain way. And not only do you remember a song, you remember where you are when you hear that song, right? You remember a moment in your life when you heard that song. That these things get packaged together. All these little pieces start getting packaged together. And any one thing can take you on that journey. So let's say you walk into a room and you smell something, and all of a sudden you're thinking about your high school prom date. And you're going, wow, where did that come from, right? But it's that little piece. Let's say the smell, it was that little smell that triggered this emotional response, and your hippocampus pulled it all together and said, ooh, remember this? Got it? It is the base, in many ways, of what we learn and how we frame information. I love that picture from Zoe. That limbic system is what everything sits on. I.e., think about the emotional responses of your students. Think about how what you're talking about can create an emotional response, whether positive, negative. How is it what you're talking about is going to engage them in their emotions in a certain way? Make sense? Okay, next. This is one of my favorites. Networks that fire together get wired together. All right, now remember this picture, okay? Remember that? Now imagine if I took a sparkler and I put it on top of that. All right, so let's do this. See that sparkler? Imagine if I took that sparkler and I put it right on top of that. Can you do that? Can you see it? So imagine that sparkler sitting right on top of that. At the base of the sparkler, that's the hippocampus, okay? So if I was hooking your brain up to an fMRI and I was watching you think, and I started throwing images at you, and I took a picture, right? So let's say I said car, and I went snap, boom, pow. Your brain would fire like that. And notice what it's doing. It's pulling all these other elements of what a car is from all the other areas of the brain, and it's pulling it together. It's wiring it together. These are all electronic signals. They're all being wired together, all right? So I say car, bang, there it is. Car, bang, there it is. Car, bang, there it is. And I could get this picture of how you are framing the idea of a car. Got it? Okay? Now here's the interesting thing about that. The more you fire that, the more that image happens, the more ingrained that idea comes into your brain. In other words, that neuronal network gets wired in a certain way, and actually, it becomes a physical fact. It becomes something physical. Literally in your brain. I can physically see it. Now, why does that matter? Let me show you why that matters. If a neuronal network is a physical fact, I need a guinea pig. Come up here. Come right here at the edge of the stage. I can talk for like an hour, right? Oh my God. All right, just hold your finger up real high, like that, okay. See that finger? That's a physical fact, yes? Anybody got a knife? Come on up here with your knife. No, just stay there. How would you feel if I said, I'm going to take that finger and I'm going to cut it off? Would you let me do that? No. Aren't we doing that to our students when they think a certain thing and we say they're wrong? Ooh, you should have seen a light bulb go off in her head. That was really cool. That's a moral dilemma, isn't it? Isn't it? But that's why your students are going to fight you. Thank you. You can give her applause. Yes, for letting me use her finger. Way to go. Here's the deal. These neuronal facts are physical facts. They become wired in your brain like your finger. So students are going to fight it. This is reality to them. You are challenging their reality. So you got to think about that perspective. When you look at students and say, man, they're really just dumb. No, that's been a neuronal networks that have been fired. Okay, now here's the other cool thing. How long do you think it takes before a neuronal network really kind of gets set? Guess, how long do you think it takes for that to happen? Shout out some time. 5 seconds. No. 10 years. Who said 10 years? That is very close. Very close. We think it's around 11 or 12. In other words, what happens up to that point is what we call nomadic memory. If I was taking shots of your brain, it would move around. It would look different. This picture right here would look a little different each time, okay? And it would move around. And then finally, after a while, the brain just kind of settles in and says, oh, this is what a car is. That means, think about this. Kids that are starting first grade today won't really know something in terms of a neuronal network until they're sophomores or juniors in high school. That's a lot of repeating, isn't it? And you expect your students to learn stuff in 15 weeks? Another moral dilemma, right? That means you got to repeat, right? Repetition is critical. Repetition is absolutely critical, but it cannot be mindless repetition. Because mindless repetition doesn't strike the emotion, doesn't strike the interest level, right? Mindless repetition leads to this. Can anybody pick for me the right penny? Talk amongst yourselves. At your table, come to a consensus. What's the right penny? Go ahead. Without looking. No cheaters out there. Where's the right penny? This is the point where you talk to each other, okay? All right. We got a vote? Let me hear some. I hear some ayes. I hear some A's. Who? What? Somebody? All of them? No, they're not. No. Wow, what a creative answer. I have never, in all my years of doing this talk, I have never heard that answer. That's all right. I have A's, I have I's. Do I have any others? I have an H. L. The correct answer is J. No, I'm kidding. The correct answer, oh, somebody went, yeah! No, the correct answer is A. Correct answer is A. Yep. Why was this hard? What'd you say? I don't pay attention to pennies, right? First of all, you should have seen, I forgot my penny today. So I was walking around asking somebody, you got a penny, you got a penny, you got a penny? Everybody's like, no, I ain't got a penny. And there was some young lady in the back. Where's she at? Raise your hand. She goes, oh, I got hundreds of them. Hold on. And everybody at the table was giving her a hard time going, of course you'd have pennies, right? I mean, you think about it. These things, we care so little about them, we just lay them around, don't we? Here, I got 8 cents left over, I'll leave it at the counter, right? It's not from not repetition. You see this thing all the time, right? But it's mindless repetition. It's not connected to something relevant. It's not connecting to something emotional. Now, if you were a coin collector, no brainer. You know this right away. You're an expert, right? Think about that. You are an expert, your students aren't. You look at it going, this is like a penny. How could you not see this? Right? They're looking at it going, why should I care? This is stuff I just lay around at the counters. Got it? Another thing to think about. So it's not just repetition. It's not just study. It's study with kind of a reference point. It's study with a passion point. Here's the next one. I love this one. Probably many of you by now have seen it. But it's the idea that what we will do in our disciplines is we tend to get lost into really small, minute details rather than also understanding there's a big picture to it. That all of our disciplines have big pictures. And the understanding the disciplines are all about being able to move from the little ideas to the big ideas. So I got a little assignment for you. This is a very simple little video here. There's going to be a team in white, and they're going to be throwing a basketball. And all I want you to do, and there's a 2-cent reward if you get it right. All I want you to do is I want you to watch the team in white, and I want you to watch how many times they pass this basketball. Count them, pay attention, focus closely here, because you're going to have to really pay attention. But really hone in and tell me how many times this team in white throws the basketball. Ready? And I'll even help you start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many did you get? 13. How many got 13? Outstanding. Usually not many people get that right. How many of you saw the moonwalking bear? There we go. About 10%, if you haven't seen this before, about 10% of you will recognize the moonwalking bear. How many of that 10% also got 13? Could you do both? Yeah, usually only one or two can do both, because now you're asking your working memory to multitask, and it's not good at that. Yeah, there's a moonwalking bear in here, and you'll miss it because you're paying attention to what I told you to pay attention to. Come on, go back. There we go. Right, here we go. We're passing the basketball, and the bear's going to come right here. See him? Right there. He even does a little special move there at the end. I love the little move at the end, right? How could you not see that? I was watching a professor teach one time, and he got so mad at his students because they couldn't see it. And he goes, how can you not see the answer to that problem? I thought his whole head was going to blow up. I'm like, dude, relax. If you focus on the details, they'll miss the big picture. So you got to do both. You got to do both simultaneously so that they have a context to kick it on. We tend to say go to the little pieces rather than the big pieces. All right, so now stand up. I need everybody stand up. Everybody ready? Now here's the point to this one. Movement matters. Right? Your brain, remember you're Bambi. You are Bambi, and you've been designed to run in the safari desert for your life. Not sit on your butt all this time. A fellow faculty member of mine used to say, he called it the numb butt theory. If they're sitting on their butt long enough for their butt to get numb, they're not going to learn. All right? So, this is just a dance break. Everybody ready? Okay, here we go. Don't make me do this on my own. Yeah, there it is. All right. Come on. Yeah, all right. Very good. Very good. Actually, this had nothing to do with my presentation. I just like watching you guys look like idiots. It's funny. You should see it from my point of view. This is just my sixth sense of humor having fun. But no, movement matters. Movement matters a lot. And if it can't be physical movement, it can be simulated movement. Can students see where you're going? If they see the path that you're on, they'll stay with you. If they see they're moving towards an ending point, they'll stay with you. I have another example of that as well. It's all tied together. This is a very cool video. A friend of mine in San Francisco has been studying, doing fMR studies and looking at how the brain processes information. And actually, he's been one of the ones that's really been cutting edge on showing that people cannot text and drive. Your brain it can't multitask. It's not designed to do that. It's designed to keep you alive, right? And texting and driving just don't go together. But one of the things that I'm going to show you here, this is a student. Now, this is important because this is a non-music major student. Now, that's important because an expert's going to listen to music differently than a non-expert, right? So this is a student whose brain's been, not literally, metaphorically split in half. The right hemisphere is on this side. There's the right hemisphere. There's the left hemisphere, okay? So imagine a student sitting there listening to music. Now, I want you to watch this, and I want you to pay attention to what you see. All right, I'm going to play it again. So watch it again. All right, first, what'd you see? Right brain's more active. Makes sense. Music, right brain, all that stuff, right? I got a whole nother lecture. I'll talk about how right brain, left brain doesn't exist, but that's not today. But the right brain is part of the music. You know, it's gonna be more active. What else do you notice? Yeah. Yeah, as the music and actually, it's as the music went away, the brain got really active, didn't it? Almost at the it's almost towards the end, the brain got really active, and then at the silence, it got really active, and then it went down again. Yeah? At your table, come up with a theory of what that tells you. You're all going to be neuroscientists now. Come up with a theory. You have 60 seconds. Come up with a theory of why the brain would be most active at the pre and silence moment. Give me a theory. Hurry up. Oh my God, it's 10:40, isn't it? That clock's wrong. Okay, you don't have 60 seconds. Let me hear your theory. Anybody quickly. What's your theory? What? Absolutely. It's what we call in the field event segmentation. That is that we are good at seeing beginning, middles, and ends. Our brains are designed to see beginning, middle, and ends. We look for patterns, and one of the patterns that we look for is just that, beginning, middle, and end. Okay? Think about how you structure your lecture to have a series, or your learning environments to have a series of beginning, middle, and ends. All right? Next one. I got to pick it up here. I'm sorry. Here's my favorite. I have to show. I got to show this one. This is what we call the 4 wants of the brain. Remember your Bambi. And you have 4 wants of the brain that have to be met. Those are very simple. You have to control your own actions. You have to understand your environment. You will seek pleasure and you avoid danger. Those are 4 things that your brain's designed to do. Control, understand, seek pleasure, avoid danger, right? Here's some videos to help you remember this. Oh, wait. Do I got volume? This one doesn't work without volume. Although it does kind of work without volume, doesn't it?
Hi.
It's actually kind of funnier.
We've decided to make Casual Fridays all week.
Of course, if it's mandatory, it can't be casual.
Nice pants, Terry.
Expose yourself.
Yes. So that one was about Casual Friday being mandatory all week, and that's not understanding or controlling your environment. Here's another one I like. This is a good one. This one's not working. You're getting the gist of it. There it is. That's what you call controlling your environment. That's understanding the wants of the brain, okay? So I got one more to show you real quick. Actually, this is understanding patterns. I'll come back to that. We'll talk about that later. One last one I got to show you. And this is how, remember I told you when students have these kind of locked-in ideas, these locked-in preconceptions, what you have to do to break those is create what we call expectation failures. And that is you put them in a situation where their preconceived idea won't work. If you can put students in a situation where their preconceptions don't work, that's how you break them from these locked-in ideas that are false, okay? We call that in cognitive theory the expectation failure. So I got a little video to show you the expectation failure. Everybody always loves this one, and it's something to think about here. And this will be my luck. Sometimes what you think is going on is not really what's going on. And if you can put students in those situations where how they're interpreting things aren't really what they are, we do know that that leads to breaking their expectations. And that will break their kind of stuck-in theories. Look, here it is. Think about this. It's a physical fact. When students learn, you are really changing inside themselves. It's a huge adventure. It is a great journey. I cannot think of being in a better position in your life. You're going to be learning at the same time they're going to be learning. And as a graduate student, this is the best time of your life. It truly is. I know you're living in poverty, and that stinks. I know that. But it is so much fun because all you have to do is dig into your discipline right now. And it's such a great time. And when you get a real job, you get into the real world like I am, you don't have time for that anymore. And so really enjoy the journey. And hey, us at the Center for Teaching and Learning, we can help you. I have something for you. I have a special prize, but to get you to follow us on Twitter, if you tweet the answer to this, you'll be put into a pile of names, hopefully thousands of names, but we'll pull a prize for you. And here's the question. Many of you are going to be teaching what are called core courses. You're going to be involved with those. They originally came from the LER, which is liberal education requirement. So here's my question to you. Which former Kent State University president implemented the LER? You can go on the history website of the Kent State University, learn a little history about the university, tweet your answer to that, follow us at the Center for Teaching and Learning, and we got a special prize for you. Again, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. You can stop by our offices in Molten Hall. Let me know how I can help. We're here to help you. Anything about teaching and learning. You just want to hang out and tell good jokes, I'll listen to those too. So enjoy the ride. Thanks for letting me be a part of your life today. Enjoy it. Take care. See you later. I'm only a couple minutes over.